Welcome to Victoria Rumble Room, an island show that likes to cast its lens far and wide on issues on Vancouver Island, British Columbia, Canada, and sometimes the wide world. I'm Robin Adair, and across town is my co-host, John Jurisic. And John, this is a very serious Rumble Room.
Not as much kidding and cajoling today, Robin. We have a very serious and tragic topic to deal with in our Rumble Room. The terrible violence in Israel and the Gaza has cost over 1,000 lives and led to rallies across Canada and around the world. The Jewish community has long settled here in Canada, and many of us have Jewish friends. And I think traditionally Canadians have believed that the Israeli state, certainly I feel that way, has the right to existence and self-defense.
And I think, John, that we can agree that there's widespread sympathy as well for the Palestinians. They've lived a very unstable existence. They haven't really had a proper homeland since 1947, after the first Israeli war, when Israel was declared a country. And they continually face violence and instability, and I think bad leadership along the way. And it's a very complex situation. Some of the Palestinian demonstrators say Hamas is justified to take hostages and kill the elderly, women, and children. And there's been something like 1,500 Israelis killed so far. And when I say protesters, I'm talking about people in Canada, in Canadian cities, saying that they are justified. Hamas is justified to carry out this violence. In response, Israel has destroyed areas where the Hamas rockets are launched, and they use human shields. Innocent Palestinians are being killed in huge numbers. It's a tragic mess. Yes, Palestine deserves to have a homeland, and there must be a way for Israel and Palestine to coexist in some way, shape, or form. It's been over 80 years with this terrible, terrible mess. There has to be a solution found, John.
Robin, our viewers certainly have some thoughts on this conflict. So why don't we go and see what they are saying? Joan writes, "History is repeating itself. It only takes a few to disrupt the world. My heart bleeds for these beautiful countries." Our friend Rudy actually has this to say, very concerning. Give peace a chance.
We've also heard from one of our regular contributors to the Rumble Room, Howie Siegel. For 44 years, the Siegel family have owned and operated Pagliacci's restaurant in Victoria. It's a major landmark. This week, Howie passed an open letter out to the community written by his son Solomon, who's now the PAG co-owner and manager. And here's what Solomon has to say. "Watching the news come from Israel and Gaza has been horrific and painful. Children should never die in war and live in fear. What the Nazis are to Germans, Hamas is to the Palestinians. Hamas is an evil organization. Palestinians are a beautiful people who deserve our love, respect, and peace. We grieve the loss of life. We believe in peace and are hopeful for the day when Jews and Palestinians can live together or in their own states."
Solomon's really taking a brave and principled stand, isn't he? And he shouldn't face any backlash for making his feelings felt publicly. I'm sure his family and community are extremely proud of him. For the record, Robin and I have a number of friends who are members of the Jewish faith. But this doesn't mean we're against Muslims. In fact, profoundly not. But we are against radical, violent extremism and terrorism of any kind from any source.
Absolutely, John. And if there is a spokesperson from the Muslim community who's prepared to speak on behalf of the Palestinians, who's not from Hamas, is not out to see the total destruction and annihilation of the Israeli people, but mainly to see a homeland and fair treatment for Palestinians, we would welcome that person on this show. You're free to reach out to the Rumble Room through Facebook or Twitter or other means. Let us know. We'll get you on the program. And that said, we have been in contact with the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver's Ezra Shanken. He's standing by right now. Let's zoom him in. And now joining us in the Victoria Rumble Room for the first time is Ezra Shanken, who is the CEO of the Jewish Federation of Greater Vancouver. And Ezra, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm happy to be here.
It's a sad occasion to have you here. It's a bad time for your community and I think for the world. Let's start by this outbreak in Gaza and in Israel and the way it's being received in Canada, both by your community and the wider community. I think it's fair to say that most Canadians for a long time have wanted to see some sort of a settlement out in the state of Israel with the Palestinians and the Gaza and the West Bank and all of this. It just seems to go on, and no one would argue that the Gaza has remained a tinderbox. How surprised were you at the violence when it broke out, and how can the situation be resolved?
I think the magnitude of the atrocities are extraordinarily surprising. I mean, Hamas is a genocidal terrorist organization. Let's separate them out from Palestinians that are trying to find a future for themselves, trying to live a life. And I feel terribly for them. But we really have to separate. Hamas as a designated terror organization, not by me, but by Canada, by most of the Western countries. They have no interest in finding a peaceful solution. They have no interest in a future for the state of Israel. But I will say that our community was shocked by the brutality, shocked by the sophistication of this attack. We had been very used to the normal exchanges of rockets, as normal as rocket fire can be on a country targeting innocent population centers. But this is just it is beyond comprehension. And one of the saddest things is, I remember speaking to, our new ambassador from Israel to Canada, saying, man, we had projects we're working on in Gaza. We want to try and make things better in Gaza. And Hamas is so ideologically opposed to improving the situation where they are because they have a zero-sum game in how they operate. That there are many in Gaza that had no idea that they were going to do something so sinister.
So the only way to solve this problem is to fight it out?
I think that I'm not a strategic affairs expert here. I would say that Hamas hasn't been good for anybody. I would say that if this happened to any other country, I think you can imagine that the removal of Hamas would be on the table, no questions asked. Mm-hmm. I think that what Israel is doing is no different than any Western country in reacting to attack of this type. I mean, we have to say, like, we haven't seen anything like this since the Holocaust. I mean, it really is just beyond comprehension. I think that you have to have a willing partner in dialogue. And right now, as long as Hamas is ruling over Gaza, you don't. And how do you solve the problem? Right? If you can't talk to anybody, you can't solve the problem. If the answer when you say, what can we do to make things better for you? And Hamas's answer is, you can all die. I don't think that any of us we wouldn't take that kind of, that's not an equation that's worthy of working with. You need a partner in dialogue. I mean, the West Bank as challenges, but the Palestinian Authority even at least talks to the Israelis, and it's not a perfect situation, but the experience of many parts of the West Bank is remarkably different in a positive way than that of Gaza.
Ezra, we really appreciate having you on the show. Thank you very much for taking some time.
I'm glad that you're giving us time to speak about this. Such an important issue.
For sure. There's such troubling times in Israel and for the Jewish community in Canada. There have been now vigils in Vancouver and Victoria to honor those who already have died and perished in this conflict. Much to my personal chagrin and dismay, there have also been counter protests out on the streets with Palestinian flags. And now we've heard that the leader of Hamas is calling for an international day of reckoning. How does your community, please tell us, prepare for something insane as this?
I'll touch on a couple of different things. I have been very heartened by the support that we've received from across the province, from across the country. All three levels of government are in unison on this. I was not prepared for the sharing of sweets by Hamas supporters here in our province. I was not prepared to see that. And I also think that it's for some of the people going there thinking that they're supporting Palestinian rights, for them to unwittingly be supporting Hamas and the atrocities that they're doing is also in many ways a misuse of a gathering. And I find that to be really shocking. And I said at the gathering that we had, the solidarity gathering that we had, where we had such immense support from across the community, from faith communities and ethnocultural communities. I said one of the things that struck me when I was downtown, when walking into an interview in the TD Tower, they were doing their thing over at the art gallery, was how, this is an observation I had, it's just fascinating to me, how so many of them covered their faces with keffiyehs. And what I said to the crowd there is, what does that say to you? Why don't they want us to see their faces? Uncover your faces so that we can see you and we can identify you and we can hold you responsible. But they don't want that. They want to be able to show up at work the next morning and have it like it never happened. It's not funny. It's not interesting. It's not countercultural.
And yet there is a lot of sympathy out there for the Palestinians, I think, in a broad brush way.
There is a lot of sympathy in my heart for the Palestinians. I've said it, and I'll say it right here. I am pro-Palestinian, but I am not pro-Hamas. And people have to be responsible about who they hang out with, and they have to be they have to be discerning. It's like, I don't like that claim that people throw up their hands and say, well, no, I was just at the party. I was just at the party. I don't know who these people are. I was just saying that, no, you're not just saying. You just had the worst atrocities done on innocent civilians, 40 babies butchered and burned, 150 people taken hostage, women raped, blood coming out of their crotches as they're dragged off into Gaza as trophies. And you're just saying in the moment, oh, I wasn't really there. I didn't really understand that. I'm just standing with Palestinian rights. Then be clear. Go on social media and denounce Hamas. Denounce the actions of Hamas. Come out and be real about this. I want to stand with you on Palestinian rights, but come out and denounce Hamas. Hamas has done nothing but bring pain to your people. And there were a lot of people from other communities there, I noticed, which I love, that people are coming out for Palestinian rights. But I don't understand how they didn't think.
I know personally a number of Jewish people that are not crazy about, for example, Netanyahu, and not crazy about settlements, and not crazy about other policies in Israel. And that's more of a political discussion externally and internally in Israel. And then different pockets of your community have different belief systems. So I know that there are secular Jews, there are Jews that are conservative, there's Jews that are Reform, there's Jews that are Hasidic. How would you characterize the feeling of that community, or that broad brush community, in its views of what's going on now? Is there a lot of unity amongst all the disparate parts of the Jewish community about what's going on right now? And is there any kind of guilty feeling about these accusations of Israel being an apartheid state?
All of that exists within our community, and we celebrate the diversity of our community. But I will tell you something. We have conservative Jews. We have left-wing Jews. We have right-wing Jews. We have centrist Jews. We have Jews who are upset with Israel every day of their lives, and there are Jews who love Israel to the day that they die. We have all of that. But I will challenge and say, there are no baby killing loving Jews in my community. They are not in the tent. There are no raping women loving Jews in our community. This is not about apartheid. This is about an action taken by a terrorist group that is beyond the pale. We have got to allow ourselves to say, I got to press pause here. I got to press pause here. And I got to say, you know what? I don't like Bibi, and I don't like these settlements, but like I'm not on board for this ride. I am not on board for this ride. And I think I would challenge, if you are a baby killing loving Jew, then you're not my kind of Jew. And I don't want you in the tent. But if you are somebody who has challenges with Israel, if you are somebody who believes that Palestinians deserve stronger rights, or that Bibi is doing something wrong, or that the other side is doing something wrong, you're part of our tribe. You're in this with us. And I think that that's where the Jewish community is right now.
Our community's extraordinarily lucky to have you in it. Thank you.
No, thank you. And I say this all the time. You give us a voice to different communities, to people who are listening. You give us a chance to tell our story, which is so important to me. You're as much a part of the positive part of this as anybody else. So I just want to thank you for creating space for me and for all of us to be able to tell this important story.
Yeah. We so appreciate to hear from the Jewish community on this tragic event, these ongoing tragic events taking place in the Middle East. And, the Jewish community is such a deep part of British Columbia's fabric. The synagogue in Victoria is the oldest standing synagogue in Western North America. And, we stand by both sides that are victims in this. Women, children, the elderly, innocent people who are dying because other people have agendas. And it's a dangerous time for people just to simply live in that area. And on that note, John, I guess it's really time for us to say goodbye to another Rumble Room.
It sure is, Robin. This was an important show to state our positions, what I hope are general community-based decisions about the conflict in the Middle East. We certainly didn't pull any punches today, but I think we were fair, and we continue to be fair and unbiased and deliver the goods in the weeks and months to come, because this conflict has just started, unfortunately. We're now getting closer to 1.4 cumulative views of our program since we started the Victoria Rumble Room.
Do you mean 1.4 million cumulative views?
Oh, I'm sorry. What did I say?
You said 1.4 views, which that's almost two people.
Whoops, which is the Freudian slip. Certainly 1.4 million views. That was funny. Of our program since we started 2 years ago. Here's how you can regularly follow us. Facebook, of course, is the sort of foundational digital media that we use. We use X. We use YouTube. We use Instagram. We also post to Twitter. And we also participate in many Facebook news groups to get out what today is potentially more serious topic than usual. So I'm cheering, as I'm sure all of us, on a resolution to conflict and to peace around the world. I'm John Jurisic.
And I'm going to echo our viewer Rudy and once again say, let's give peace a chance. I'm Robin Adair, and rumble on.